Our meeting is called to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner.
Here.
Reverend Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Here.
Mr. Raleigh.
Here.
Mayor Saunders.
Here.
Mr. Shanks.
Here.
Mr. Vogler.
Here.
Please stand for the invocation. Remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Tonight, given by Council Member John B. Gilstrap.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks for this community in which we live. We give thanks for the privilege of serving the citizens of our community. Now, as we gather to make decisions for our community, may we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Councilman Gilstrap. Under special recognition, we have Mr. Davis Montgomery from Duke Energy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, members of council, members of city staff, my name is Davis Montgomery. I'm a district manager for Duke Energy. Here to provide you with a brief update on some of the matters related to our current operation. But before I begin, I'd like to take just a personal moment and say how sad I was to hear of the passing of Mr. King. He was always a gentleman, and I thoroughly enjoyed getting to know him, so it was a sad passing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A couple of things that have taken place that may be of interest to you. At our Dan River Station, we've begun to move coal ash in earnest. We're not up to full speed yet. We have moved about 66,000 tons of the material so far. We are on a stage now where we will move about 30 rail cars 3 times a week. Each rail car holds 103 tons, so averaging somewhere around 3,000 tons each week. We hope in the next month to ramp that up to where we can double that amount, where we're moving closer to 9,000 tons each week. Sounds like a lot of material, but we have 1.5 million tons of this to move to Jetersville, and it's going to be an aggressive timeline. We not only have to move this material, but the spot from which we are removing it is the spot where we will construct a landfill in which to put the other material that's closer to the river. So that's taking place now as we speak. It is a major operation. Each of those rail cars has a protective tarp in the bottom of it. After you put the 103 tons of material in it, that tarp is then folded over it in 4 different directions and secured with 12 for what could better be described as just industrial-sized bungee cords to keep that tarp from flapping around and to protect that material as it makes its way up to Jetersville. So that's good progress on our part, but we still have a lot of material left to move. We recently had the ash basins throughout North Carolina classified. This was part of the Coal Ash Management Act. North Carolina's DEQ, which is the equivalent of your Virginia DEQ, was charged with classifying each of those coal ash basins as either high, intermediate, or low. The classification impacts how you would treat the material. High and intermediate would have to be excavated and put into a landfill. Low would be cap in place. They came out with their draft review of that. I think what's important for this council and for the city of Danville, Dan River has always been classified as high, and it is still, of course, at high. That's the reason, that aggressive timeline, it has to be moved. All that material has to be moved by August of 2019. Okay, that has not changed. What DEQ will do on the rest of the classifications, they'll have public input to help them determine the final classification. This is just a draft. They also have created a new classification of low intermediate, and they're going to have to find a dividing line for those that they have in low and intermediate. It's either got to be low or it's either got to be intermediate. It can't be in between. So that will take place and should be finalized by April the 18th. And then the last thing that I have for you tonight is just that we have secured almost all the permits that we need to begin the work in Abreu Grogan Park. We have one left that we need to secure, but that's going to hopefully take place here fairly soon. Our contractor is Crisp & Crisp out of Robbinsville, North Carolina. We put it out for bid, and that was our successful bidder. We're using the local engineering contractor of Dewberry here in Danville. We will have a pre-construction meeting there this week. We will have another pre-construction walk-down and preparatory meeting at the end of this month. Our timeline is an aggressive one. We hope to have all those improvements made and completed by May so that we don't impact your recreation season again. There's a lot of work to be done. We will be coordinating very closely with Mr. Skriniar and, of course, Mr. Skriniar, and, of course, anybody else that you would like for us to coordinate with on the activity that will take place at the park. So that's my brief update for you today. Be glad to entertain any questions.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, then Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for your information, sir.
Yes.
The 3,000 to 9,000 tons that you are pulling from the river, what location, major area that you're doing it from?
It's Amelia Landfill, which is in Jetersville, Virginia, so just southeast of Richmond.
Now, you talked about our area. Have you you have not finished here yet, or have you finished? Let's clear that up.
In the Danville area?
Yes.
No, sir.
You have not.
No, sir.
And you're saying that you will be through by August.
Yes, sir, with the Dan River, and that is the complete excavation. It is moving. We will be finished, obviously, we'll be finished before that time, moving the material by rail. Once we have that 1.5 million tons moved, we will then construct a lined landfill in that spot where that material just came from. We have another 1.5 million tons next to the river that we will put in that lined landfill. So that will take us until 2019. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We're
you.
absolutely
Mr.
committed.
Vice
We will
Mayor?
meet that deadline.
Yes, sir. Remind us again of what monitoring of the river is going on now and long-term to prevent leaching of further ash into the river.
Yes, sir. As you might imagine, it's probably the most closely watched river in the state, obviously. North Carolina DEQ is monitoring the river itself. Anything that takes place, of course, environmental groups are taking a look at, as well as state agencies. Around the basins themselves, and I have to remember for Dan River, I believe we have installed at least 99 wells around those basins to monitor any movement of groundwater towards the river. And so far, of course, we're staying within our limits. So we have a set of monitoring wells, we have a usual permitting process, we have the environmental groups, and we have the state agencies all looking at the quality of the water.
And there's somebody monitoring every day to make sure there's no spills in the meanwhile.
Just as an example, Dr. Miller, we have several large pieces of equipment. You can imagine the dump trucks are, I don't know how big they are, 20, 30, 40 tons.
I've seen them, yeah.
The front end loader can take 28,000 pounds of material at each scoop. It takes 7 scoops to fill one rail car. All those pieces of equipment are parked on what might be described as just a tarp each night that has sides on it. And before those trucks can go out in the morning, they inspect each and every one of those tarps. If there's any sheen, if there's water and there's any sheen on it, if there's any hydraulic fluid, any leak, that piece of machinery does not go out until they find out the reason for that. So it is a very closely monitored operation. You might have had a chance, I can't remember, Dr.
Yeah, I was there myself.
It has changed quite a bit since then. We had to add 2 miles of railway, 3 different lines. You have to have one line bringing cars in. You have to have one line stage for us to put the material in. Then you have the middle line, which is the makeup of 60 cars that are going out to Jetersville. So it's been quite an operation. We have a full-time locomotive on site moving all that around.
But there's still one pond that's sitting beside the river with
Yes, sir.
a levee that could fail. Who's watching that?
We're watching it, of course. State NCDEQ is watching it. They did a risk assessment, a structural assessment of each and every pond that we have, which is 33 ponds. And none of them qualified as anything other than very low risk or low risk. So structurally, all those have been certified to be in good shape. That's both underneath CAMA, which is the Coal Ash Management Act, as well as the EPA.
And yesterday, my informants tell me there was a Duke Energy boat down at the Abreu Grogan. Were they looking at the park or were they looking at the river? What monitoring is that?
I have no idea. As you might imagine, we have a lot of activity on the river. What that particular boat may have been doing, if it was near the park, I would say they're probably looking at the bank where we're going to construct the fishing dock that's going to be handicapped accessible, probably getting a better bearing on what that looks like, how the equipment might be brought in. That's just a guess on my part, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
But at all of our stations, we do water testing as well as fish sampling on a regular basis, and all that's monitored.
And Mr. Raleigh?
Yes, sir. The pre-construction meeting this week,
Yes, sir.
is that open? That if
Yes, sir.
we had time to come and listen?
Yes, sir. More than that particular construction meeting won't be for the entire park. There is a structure that we propose to put on that site, which is a restroom. And I think this meeting is just to look at how that restroom would be placed and any other things we need to have.
Okay.
And
But maybe you could let us know when other meetings.
absolutely. The other one's at the end of the month, and that will be the larger construction meeting and walk down, and I'll be glad to make you.
And that'll be done at the Dewberry office?
No, sir, it'll probably be done on site.
Okay. Okay.
That's going to be with the contractor to walk down and just give him the whole lay of how things are supposed to work.
All right. If
Yes,
you
sir.
would let us, I don't know that I could come, but if I can, I'd like to be there.
We'd love for you to come. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Under communication, those desire to speak on matters not on the agenda will be heard at this time. Those desire to speak on agenda items will be heard when the item is considered. Communication with visitors should be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to address council. They shall not serve as a forum for debate with council. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and address. Each individual speaker shall have 5 uninterrupted minutes. Representative of the group may have up to 10 uninterrupted minutes to make a presentation. Representatives identify the group, and a group may have no more than 1 spokesperson. Time will be kept. Use electronic timer on the podium. The green light will be lit when a speaker begins. The yellow light indicates the speaker has 1 minute left, and the red light indicates the speaker's time has ended. Anyone wish to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Steve Del Giorno. I live in Nashville and here in Danville. I'm an entrepreneur. I own several real estate property projects up in the North Main area, including the building that the 616 restaurant is in. Plus, I'm a partner in the restaurant, the 616 Farm to Table restaurant. I know that later this evening, the City Council, you guys have on your agenda, on the Work Council, to address the community police precincts or the pop-up precincts, or even possibly community policing. And I wanted to, as a businessman, express my desire that you guys really research this thoroughly and support that idea, that initiative, because I know that they used to have one of those in North Danville, actually, where the 616 is today, ironically enough. And we think that with the new investment that's coming into North Danville, into the commercial area, I believe strongly that the customers that we're bringing into that part of town now would see and feel a great sense of confidence knowing that there's a stronger police presence in that neighborhood. Today, since we opened the restaurant last September, we're bringing in about 2,000 people a month now up into that part of town. We're very proud of that accomplishment. We've made sizable financial and personal and emotional investments into that part of town, and would be very gratified that if the police department was able to have a stronger presence, all that would do is not only help support our customers, our business, but actually attract even more business into that part of Danville. I will not even come close to my 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Glenn Scares, Danville, Virginia.
Good evening.
Council members, ma'am, mayor. Some time ago, I was up late one night and happened to catch a program on TV. The name of the program was American Greed. And the program was about Detroit. As I watched that program, my jaw dropped because I saw so many similarities between what went on in that city that brought it to its knees and what's going on in Danville today. I'm really taken back because I want Danville to succeed. But I really don't believe that's a direction that we're going in, and the amount of debt that this town has accumulated and continues to accumulate can be sustained in the future. I see the ability of the tax-paying portion of the city diminishing. I don't think in the future you're going to have anywhere near the amount of capital that you've had in the past. I would strongly suggest that it be used wisely. I was doing some research on Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina. I came across an interesting statistic. The average governor makes $116,000 a year. We have a lot of people on Danville payroll that make more than the average governor. And I think way too many have been hired by using consultants who seem to think someone from New York knows better than a Southerner what's best for Danville. I would like to see more people in our government and in positions of authority that have our history, that understand what our needs are and what our thinking is. We have a governor from Syracuse, New York. Isn't there anybody in the state of Virginia qualified to be the governor of this state? Do we have to import them from the north? And there are several people holding positions that I think are doing this town a great disservice because their values are not our values. Their thinking is not our thinking, and we've really got to make an effort to turn our situation around. I would like to see a wholesale, bottom-up redistribution of how Danville is run. As I said, there are individuals that I don't think are operating in our best interest. It's a funny thing. Social Security is running out of money. We put that money into the Social Security, the government stole it. Ever heard anybody say welfare is running out of money? It all comes out of the same pot. But I've never heard anyone say that, gee, we can't afford these entitlements. There's something fundamentally wrong with what's going on in this country. And as far as I'm concerned, all politics are local. So it might look like a state or a national issue. Frankly, I think it begins here in Danville. If we can make changes here, then we have a chance of making changes in other places. But we have got to start getting serious about the waste and mismanagement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Miss, I'm Wayne Allen. I own the historic North Theater here in town, 629 North Main Street.
Good evening.
And just wanted to basically reiterate what Steve Del Giorno said. I think a stronger police presence would be great up there. When I bought the theater 4 years ago and invested that money and effort and time, it's opened the door for lots of things that are happening. The Moon River Thai, Steve's Restaurant, the dance studio above Steve's Restaurant. So the reality of that area is taking off to really become a theater and arts district, and the police presence making people safe, because I know, not being from the area, but talking to people that are from the area, that that area has had a checkered past, if we should say. The 4 years I've been there, frankly, there have been no problems around the theater, but I think a police presence, a stronger police presence, could be great, and would be appreciative of any support in that regard, and any support of all for that whole area in revitalizing, because I think it has a great opportunity to kind of put Danville on the map as a destination. I know I'm pitching it that way to group salespeople and that type of thing. So I just wanted to, hope that you all would, support those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve our minutes of January the 5th, 2016? Mr. Campbell, second Mr. Buckner. Discussion of the motion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Raleigh.
Aye.
Mayor Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Consider adopting an ordinance to appropriate local matching funds in relation to funds received from the Department of Criminal Justice Services. Council, your pleasure. Mr. Gilstrap.
Mr. Mayor, I move adoption of an ordinance amending fiscal year 2016 budget appropriation ordinance by anticipating revenues in the amount of $11,880 in federal funds from the Department of Criminal Justice Services with a local match of $1,188.
Second, Mr. Campbell. Discussion on the motion. Please call the roll.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Raleigh.
Aye.
Mayor Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Resolution adopting an ordinance to rezone property from Old Town Residential to Highway Retail Commercial. Open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
I'm Mark Johnson, LE&D Professionals. We're here on behalf of Piedmont Place 1 LLC. I would like to thank you for your consideration and your service and this request. I would like to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Johnson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Council, your pleasure. Mr. Shanks.
Yes, Mayor, I move for adoption of ordinance rezoning from OTR Old Town Residential to HRC Highway Retail Commercial District. Parcel ID is number 57218, 57217, 57216, 57215, 5320, 57214, and 57228. All otherwise known as Grid 716, Block 12, parcels 11 through 17, respectively, of the City of Danville's zoning district map.
Mr. Shanks, would you mind reading that again, please?
No, sir, I don't mind.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Buckner. Discussion on the motion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Raleigh.
Aye.
Mayor Saunders.
Aye.
Mr. Shanks.
Aye.
Mr. Vogler.
Aye.
Mr. Buckner.
Aye.
Reverend Campbell.
Aye.
Consideration of adopting an ordinance to rezone property from industrial manufacturing district to transitional office commercial district. Open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak? Anyone? Close the public hearing. Council, your pleasure. Mr. Vogler.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt an ordinance rezoning from IM Industrial Manufacturing District to TO-C Transitional Office Commercial District, 0.5996 acres of parcel ID number 60538, otherwise known as 0.5996 acres of grid 0608, Block 004, Parcel 000022 of the City of Danville, Virginia zoning district map.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Raleigh. Discussion. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Raleigh?
Aye.
Mayor Saunders?
Aye.
Mr. Shanks?
Aye.
Mr. Vogler?
Aye.
Mr. Buckner?
Aye.
Reverend Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap?
Consideration of approving a resolution to deny a special use permit at 541 North Main Street. Open the public hearing. Council, your place. Open public hearing. Anyone? Yes. Yes, sir.
Again, me, Steve Del Giorno, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Welcome.
I'm here today to urge you to deny the request to allow for the rezoning to allow a convenience store at 541 North Main Street. The reason that we're adamantly opposed to having a convenience store there is, as I stated earlier in the meeting, as owning commercial property up in that street as well as the 616 restaurant, we feel like a convenience store really garners, it attracts the wrong kind of customer base, if you will, a lot of loitering. Convenience stores attract crime, and we believe strongly that the location of that convenience store would actually serve to intimidate a large number of our customer base that's coming up there. Furthermore, the residents of that community are served by two convenience stores nearby. One is less than 1 block away at Meads Alley and Worsham Street, and another one is 4 blocks away at James Street. But all those are grandfather claused into the current CBD zoning process. And lastly, I would just like to say that allowing the rezoning there, I think, could possibly set a dangerous precedent for the city of Danville for other parts of town to allow convenience stores, whether it be OWE or even the River District. So again, I urge you to deny the request to allow a convenience store at 541 North Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I want to withdraw the 541.
Mr. Attorney, we're in public hearing. Request has just come forward. What is the procedure?
I think we're at the point now where you still would go ahead and act on the ordinance, but I would say he's withdrawn it. I would say that somebody would make a motion to allow him to withdraw or to approve the withdrawal, and then that would prevent the time period for which a denial would create. So that if he's withdrawing, I think that we would.
After the public hearing has been concluded?
After the public hearing.
Yes, sir.
After the public hearing has been concluded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Council, your pleasure. Mr. Gilstrap?
May I ask a question before?
Yes, please.
Clarification, Clark, are you saying, are we requesting to remove it from the agenda or removing the request?
I think what we would do is do a motion authorizing and approving his withdrawal so that that's permanent, so that's on the record, and then it would be seconded and voted on just like any other action, but that doesn't trigger the...
Withdrawal of the zoning request?
Yes, sir.
Or a request to withdraw from the agenda?
He's withdrawn the zoning request, the zoning request, so I think that's what you would do.
Other questions? Mr. Jones?
I'd like to make the motion, if you don't have any more questions.
Yes, sir. It's in order.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize and approve the withdrawal of the zoning request.
Your motion to approve the withdrawal of the zoning request?
Correct.
Second, Mr. Vice Mayor. Discussion on the motion.
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Shanks?
Yes, just for clarity, I want to make sure that we put in the motion that, or the motion adequately addresses the fact this is a special use permit request. So,
We'll make sure that's
is
reflected.
that shown in the record?
We'll make sure that that's reflected in the minutes, Councilman.
Further discussion on the motion, Mr. Gilstrap?
So this means at a later date, he can return with
Yes,
a zoning request?
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Rowley?
Aye.
Mayor Saunders?
Aye.
Mr. Shanks?
Aye.
Mr. Vogler?
Aye.
Mr. Buckner?
Aye.
Reverend Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Gilstrap?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Is that it on that one, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Communication, Mr. Manager.
I have nothing this evening, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Attorney.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Madam Clerk,
Nothing, sir.
please call the roll.
Mr. Buckner?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Reverend Campbell?
Yes, I just want to thank all of the city employees that worked so hard through the snow. It was very deep. It was very efficient. I'm just thankful for the fine employees, and I'd just like to take my head off. I had a head on, salute them, how well they served our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Gilstrap?
Yes, as normal, thank everyone for attending. I'd like to recognize Pat Daniels, Executive Director of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and thank her for the service she does for the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. I witnessed this Sunday an event called Hip Hop Flint, hosted by Brian Hood and the owner of Adam T's Restaurant, where local artists came together to showcase their talent and help raise over 100 cases of water for Flint, Michigan. I also participated, I see Dr. Paul Hamers is here, in a meet and greet at the school board office with over 660 community services members who had the opportunity to learn ways to leverage community partnerships and resources collaboratively and collectively rather than working in isolation, realizing that the experiences of our families impact all of us now and later. So thank you, Dr. Paul Hamers and all the members of the school board for that. Lastly, I too would like to thank all the city employees who worked tirelessly during the past snowstorm in clearing our main and secondary streets to ensure safe travels for citizens as well as appreciated to Arnold Hendricks and Ken Larkin for continuous updates on the street conditions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yeah, again, I would like to thank the city employees. I heard dozens of compliments on their performance. I hardly heard any complaints. They just did an outstanding job. They were on top of the storm from the word get-go. And Arnold did a great job of keeping us briefed about it. Welcome again to Pat Daniels, my little sister out there, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters. This morning at the River District stakeholders, we got to hear from Wayne Allen, Mr. Vogel and I, about the dream to increase the arts district there. I was very impressed by that. Bring in restaurants, theaters, making that an artsy district, and that's what it really needs to be. And a convenience store would have added nothing. There's a Family Dollar across the street. You can get most anything more than you can get at a convenience store right there. And there's convenience stores in the neighborhood. He also mentioned his plan to have the Virginia Coach Association bring in busloads of people, to come and tour the museum. It'd be an all-day thing. Tour the museum, go to a bed and breakfast, get lunch, come up to the North Theater and have a matinee performance. I thought that was a wonderful idea, and I hope that comes to fruition. So thank you for bringing that to us. One thing I'll say about the police presence, I agree there should be increased police presence there, and a pop-up or a station would be wonderful, but you're not the only stakeholders. And what you have to realize, at one time we had the Safe Coalition there with a very heavy police presence, and it was working for crime. And then they were asked, they thought, certain people in the community thought it was too overbearing. They were doing too good a job, and asked that be disbanded in that area. So it's not just what you want on North Street. You've got to know what your neighbors and the houses around there want. So you've got to get them to buy in to increased police presence, because actually ministers of the area ask us to draw back on that police presence. So be aware of that. Again, the community market's open on Saturday. I got a suggestion for a great date or a day. My wife and I go down. We go to a Brewed Awakening, have scones and tea, and then go across the street to the community market on Saturday morning. It's a great, fun thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowley?
This morning, Mr. Mayor, I read a editorial from a citizen who I wasn't going to say anything, but I just cannot. I just want to let Mr. Williams know he ought to get his facts straight before he starts making accusations. And I took offense to what he said about me. And I just hope people understand that just because it's in writing doesn't mean it's true. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Shanks?
Yes, I got a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. I just, first of all, wanted to say how saddened I was and heartbroken I was at the recent events in the West End around Virginia Avenue and Mount Vernon. I know we've had numerous crime issues, and I know that we as a council and the police chief as well have discussed options to deal with the crime better than we have in the recent past. But this one, you know, they're all terrible. This one was within 500 feet of my house, so I feel it a little bit more than normal, I guess. I was, like I said, deeply saddened and heartbroken because our city is such a wonderful city, and events like that are just so uncalled for and so destructive. I would like to ask that the citizens keep in their prayers Dr. Neal and his family, Diane and the family, as well as Mr. Reed, who was a neighbor that came to help, hopefully help Dr. Neal and caught a bullet as well. It's very sad, and I hope that the city will get together. I mean, there's so many responsibilities here. It's not just council, it's not just the police chief. We as citizens need to do a better job of being diligent in our neighborhoods, and this would be a perfect time to reactivate or become more active in the neighborhood watch program that the city police department runs. Because it's, like I said earlier today, you could not prevent what happened last night with a police officer on every corner. That would be about the only thing you could do to prevent that. It's not a matter of whether we, you know, add a few more to a shift. It's that probably needs done, and we'll discuss that during our budget deliberations here in the next month. But even if you doubled, tripled, or quadrupled the shifts, that probably wouldn't have prevented what happened last night. And I agree with Dr. Miller. We had a street crimes unit that was taking all the statistics in the correct direction. And due to public pressure, we've backed off of that, and I hope we give that further consideration. Second item, I too would like to, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I think our city employees, Public Works, Danville Utilities, and all those employees and public safety, you know, all those employees that contributed to snow removal and keeping the city running during the snow last weekend. I mean, that was quite an event. We haven't seen an event like that in several years, and the city staff just stepped right up and took care of things as if they take care of those things on a regular basis. And the last thing I guess I was asked by a citizen to present to you and ask for answers or responses, and every member of council has a packet in front of them. And this packet involves, mostly it's not just economic development, it's all the things, several of the things that are woven together as our economic development effort. And the citizen asked, Mr. Goddard, I spent a little over an hour with him today going over this, and he couldn't be here and wanted this presented to you. It's the first page is, or just if you just take a look at the first 3 pages, you'll see that the information that is on our current website is outdated, and probably there are some links that don't work, that no longer are applicable, and he feels like and others feel like that this is not a good presentation for selling in the city. If you move into the fourth page, there are a bunch of links to some newsletters and to some programs that no longer are in existence. In the news, references of news articles are 5 years old or so. And, you know, that's just something that we probably need to address and have that all updated. Likewise, there's information provided about salaries in our area, which are dated in 2011. And then the next page, if you're following with me, there's a page on our tax rates. And that will be, could be updated as well. There's a newsletter that, the following page is a newsletter that used to come out from Economic Development that had some very good information. The last one that's on the website is December 2013. I'm not sure that we've received one either since then, but that was a really good newsletter. The next page lists our companies that have come here to Danville, and I'll just say it's out of date, and some of those companies aren't here any longer. The handwritten page that is on the next page has to do with the IDA appointments as far as how many terms or years that members can serve on the IDA. We've already addressed that, City Council has. The next several pages are off the Code of Virginia website that involve definitions about real estate assessments and public service authorities and industrial development authorities, and the assessed value, the definition of assessed value by Virginia Code. And that is pertinent because the last couple of pages, and this is really where something doesn't seem quite right. The next page is a transaction that occurred, just one of the IDA's purchases down on Main Street, and it shows the purchase price, and it's straight off the GIS website. But if you turn the page, the next page, it has, for that same piece of property, it has the assessed value. And the assessed value, for some reason, and this, I've got a question to ask about this, because the assessed value from some reason on this particular building went from $317,700 to $49,600. Now, this building is owned by the IDA. And the reason why this causes me concern is, you know, I have preached for years about, through the blight eradication program, which I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying the truth is, because of the blight eradication program and because of the IDA purchasing so many properties, there are tons of properties going off the tax rolls. And I've asked over the years for, you know, listing of of properties and taxes so we could understand how much the city is losing in tax rolls every time we make these big initiatives. Well, if the property that is being assessed is assessed at 1/10 of its value or 1/5 of its value, then that means when you add up the missing tax dollars, they're only showing 1/5 of missing tax dollars because the taxes are based on the assessment. So of all this, there are numerous answers that would like to see presented by Mr. Larkin, but the biggest one of these issues is how can it be justified? Can we justify the assessed values of these properties that the IDA or other entities are buying that appear not to be reflective of their true value? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vogler?
I too want to thank our city employees, all up and down, who worked through the snowstorm and did a good job to keep our streets clean and safe for our citizens, and also in getting that information out and updates to our citizens. I also want to ask that we keep Dr. Neal and his family in your prayers. He, I think most everybody here probably knows, my wife and I, we have a 1.5-year-old son, Kingston. It was actually Dr. Neal who confirmed the pregnancy with Blair, that we were going to have a child. And so I ask that you please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers as he recovers. We're going to have a discussion here in a few minutes in a work session with our police chief, and I thank him for being here tonight on a discussion of public safety and efforts that we can take as a city to increase public safety in our city, and possibly some new initiatives that we can undertake. I think many on this council have made clear over the years that there's no higher priority for a local government than public safety. There's no neighborhood in Danville that is any less deserving of public safety than another. We owe it to our citizens and our police officers to give them all the tools and resources they need to keep our citizens safe. And I know that's probably going to cost us more money. We're going to probably have to put more funds into the police department if we want to do that. And I know that there's been some to say we may not have the money to do that. But I would suggest that this city has found ways to fund a number of initiatives over the years when it chooses to. But on an issue like public safety, which is the fundamental responsibility of a local government, we're not going to. So I look forward to the discussion that we're about to have. Again, there's no higher priority for a local government than public safety. And we as a council, if we won't take every step possible to keep our citizens safe, then what the hell are we here for? This is what we're here to do, and I'm ready for this discussion. It's time for us to take action. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Saunders.
I'd like to thank all the city employees for your preparedness and the work that you did during our last bout with the inclement weather. You were on call. If you were not out there, you were there in all the weather and in all the danger. We recognize that you have families too, and your families were home and supporting you doing your job. So we thank you, and we also thank our families. Information, even if we cannot get out of our homes because of the weather, we still like to know what's going on. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Interim City Manager, Ken Larkin, and Public Information Officer Arnold Hendricks, and others for keeping us posted, keeping us informed. And thank God the power outage did not occur as it could have. Our staff were prepared to address that as well. And I do say all city employees, whether it be public safety, police, fire, power, lights, etc., to include other support staff, because employees on the road could not do their job without support staff. So my thanks go to all 1,100 city employees, not just for the last weather issue, but for what you do every single day. And I too would like to thank the Vice Mayor's little sister, Ms. Pat Daniels, for coming tonight, and thank you for all that you do in training our young people to be very productive adults, and you do that very well. Thank Councilman Jones for recognizing those who are addressing the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. I am glad that a number of people in Danville are doing just that. I'm really glad that Brian Hood is, as well as Scott Pickrew and others. Also, Darrell Davis from Goodyear has also mounted an effort to gather water to send to people in Flint, Michigan, and the list goes on and on and on. There cannot be too many volunteers. So please, remember the crisis in Flint could also be in Danville. And with regards to our community, our city, I maintain that we have a great city. We have a great city in Danville, Virginia. The great majority of our residents, of our citizens, are great people. There are a few people with negative acting out behavior that badly reflect on our city, but it does not make us a bad city. I'm asking the community to continue to talk to your neighbors, to talk to your family members, to talk to your friends. Public safety is priority one for all local governments, certainly for the city of Danville. I have said this before, and I'll repeat it. We have an excellent police department in the city of Danville. We have an excellent police chief for the city of Danville. We have excellent support staff as well. They do their jobs. It's my understanding that some cities in America do not answer all the calls that come into the department. They prioritize those calls and decide which one to respond to and which one not to respond to. Our police department responds to all calls that come within that department. It is a very efficient operation. Naturally, when you have crime, when you have issues that we are experiencing, such as last night and before, the first thing comes to mind is law enforcement. That's understandable. But as it comes to our mind about law enforcement keeping us safe, understand, in Danville, there are 43,000 people with roughly 44 square miles, and we have less than 150 police officers. They cannot be everywhere at the same time, but when called, they respond immediately. And it's my understanding from numbers that I have seen, usually the response time is about 3 minutes or less. I think that is great. So when we have these kind of issues, when we have these kind of rise in crime and rise in the numbers, we're the police. They're out there doing their job because they cannot be all places at one time. Yes, we have mapped out in the city of Danville where most crimes occur based on history. You can look at any map and you can see that. You can see where the crimes is mostly reported. So why not a heavy concentration in that area? Quite frankly, there may be a heavy concentration in that area. We don't know, and we don't need to know, because that could compromise addressing the issues in that area. But I can tell you the police is aware and they are responding. We have, again, a great police chief with very efficient, who runs a very efficient department. So when we have these issues, the normal question can be, well, where are the police? They're out there doing the job. What are the police doing? Police are out there doing their job, responding to all the calls. Police are not asking people to go out and shoot somebody or hurt somebody. They don't do that. We don't do that. We are your elected council. We have you as our first priority, as we should. And we are trying to address this as best we can by having great, competent people in place to do that. We have that. And we're constantly trying to find ways to even make it better, to make it better. We're always learning, we're always improving. But we need the entire community. These people who are committing these crimes, some have been caught, some have not been caught yet, but they will be caught. There are some people in our community who know these people. They will listen to you more so than us or some unknown. So community, we need you. We're not asking you to put yourself in harm's way. We're asking you to help us to stop some of this negative acting out behavior, because Danville is a great city. And unfortunately, people pick up on the negative stuff and they overlook the positives. There are much more positive things in our city than these acts of violence. Many more positive things. So I maintain Danville is a great city, and I believe that council feels the same way. Council supports our police department. The police department knows that. You have our support, and we thank each of the men and women for what they do every day, and their families too, because when they go in harm's way, they have families to support them. So we thank them as well. So Danville, yes, we have some issues that must be addressed, but I ask that we address these issues collectively. The 9 of us can't do it. The 150 or less police officers can't do it. We need the entire community. And we know that many of you are trying very hard. But please continue to do so. We need you. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.